Hey, everybody. Y'all heard me. I'm toning down my voice a little bit because when I go back to listen to the recordings, I'm so loud. I ain't trying to be loud. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to be I'm going to try to be softer tonight. Y'all know that's not me. But anyway, hey everybody. Dr. Camille, you want to tell everybody
That's
hello?
me. Hello. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. We made it to another Monday by the grace of God. And here we are again. It's time to talk. We got some things to talk about. So we're gonna I'm gonna just start it off. Waking up this morning, I was very shocked and disappointed to hear about Colin Powell. I think he is one of the greatest Americans, to me, my opinion, um, that we have seen anywhere. I just love his calmness. I love, um, and I kind of love when he came out and was talking about President Barack Obama. Because a lot of people, I think, thought because he was on the Republican Party, et cetera, some of that was not going to happen. And so I like that. I like that. I've seen interviews with he and his wife. I think her name was Alma, if I'm not mistaken. And I like I watched them. I was shocked because I had not heard that he had the cancer. My You can help me, Doctor Camille. Melanoma, or something like that. I messed it up.
Mhm.
And then, in that treatment, the COVID came. So I was just disappointed to hear that because it just seemed like so many good people, guys, just taking them on home. And he was 84, so he had his, what is it, three score plus, but he was just such a cool guy.
I
And so it was,
completely agree. I have family members who had an opportunity to serve with him.
oh,
I
wow.
actually got to meet him during some primary activity in a state that I used to live in. And one of the things that I appreciated about him and his wife as a couple is there was a grace that went along with their work ethic. And they had seen the good and the bad. You think of his age and you think about how we've progressed in the country. So he's just a few years older than my dad, but was
Mm,
already in the military serving as an officer when my dad was coming into the military, and that's how their
mhm.
their paths intersected. But you know as we I think about what we're going to talk about tonight, just so many decisions and how intentional they had to be, just navigating being Black and officers in the military, and then making the decisions to continue to serve in the public sector through him being, Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, all of the presidents and all of the people in power that he got to walk alongside. And it just seems like he is the last of the statesmen, the
Mhm.
people who could work with, you didn't really think of him as Republican. You just thought of him as General Powell,
Yeah, yeah,
and he could navigate those rooms. And wouldn't it be so nice if we could get back to where we could navigate rooms with civility?
yeah.
I also remember it appearing that um, post 9/11, he and former President, the younger Bush,
Hmm.
there was a point there. I always have my psychologist hat on, and I can remember markers where it looked like their hearts had been broken, and because
Mm.
these were men of power and they're on TV all the time, sometimes we forget that these are human beings just like us.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and I
yeah.
would say, particularly with former President Bush, I would say in his second term, he was functioning as a man whose heart was broken.
Mm.
And I remember the lack of sympathy. And you could tell toward the end of General Powell's service that his heart was broken. It
Mm.
wasn't that he didn't get his way.
Mm-hmm.
It was that he had a military prophetic eye,
Mm-hmm.
and he was no longer heard because of the agendas or the loudness of other people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And that can break you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his wife was Mrs. Powell was adamant that he was not going to run for any other office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you see, and I think it was out of that pit bull protection that we have with our men. It's like, no, I am not going to stand by and watch this world do this to you,
Yeah.
and I want you to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And you talked about them being real people. I think we forget too that in those positions they become friends of each other. And when we hear friends, we kind of think, but it's friends like if you or I or one of our friends pass, it's a friend that's gone now too. And especially the gentleman that's in the position today that served under him and said he was a mentor. He was saying he just really is going to miss him. So we see them on some pedestals in high, positions, but they are just people too, just like us. And when one of them die, their friends grieve just like we do when our friends grieve. And that's something that sometimes I don't think people think of when people who are in the public eye all the time pass away. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, just give him his props. Just to say, I was thinking today, I say, now, if you can love a person that you've never seen, he would be one that I would say I love Colin Powell. I just thought I was thinking about that. I say because I just loved him. He was just it, and we don't have many men or people like him anymore. So yeah, yeah, he'll be missed in a lot of ways, and we just have to
Yes.
keep his family and everyone in prayer. So, Doctor, we had a week last week, didn't we?
We did.
I
We did. It
mean,
was a life-changing. It was a life-changing Monday.
ooh, it was just, and then it continued through the week because we had the surprise of learning that she was like here with us, and we got to sit down and just glean even more from her and all of our stuff together, just the synergy, it was just God made, I guess is the only thing I can say about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was
Mm-hmm.
just unbelievable. It still gives me chills when I think about how everything um, materialized, how it happened. And I know
Oh,
for you
absolutely.
said that there were some things for you that came with it.
Oh, there were definitely some shifts. And for those of you who are joining us and don't know what in the world we're talking about, we
Yeah.
are talking about the amazing Angel Ruiz, who is based out of Fort Worth, Texas. Yay. That means we have access to all her light and love. She is the author of The Healing Soul of a Survivor,
Mm-hmm.
which I went back and reread last week after we had a chance to see her. She said some things, and I'm like, oh, I think I read the book too fast the first time. So I was very deliberate like Friday and Saturday. I was very deliberate with going back through her book. It's a story of survival, but the bigger story is the story of the healing that came with getting past surviving. And she is no longer in survival mode. She is living.
Mm-hmm.
She is living an abundant life, and she's paying it forward, you know. And I think that's the part we all have our different ways of paying things forward when we come out of something, and she's come out of something big, and then she reached back and was able to pull her mother and her children, and she and her husband walked together. It's almost like when said Lazarus, come out. It's like she came out, and then everybody else fell out of the tomb with her. So yeah, it was, for me, I have just been rethinking. And you mentioned that you wanted to be softer on the broadcast, and I remember thinking last Monday when she was talking, I was like, she said she had to fight for that softness that she has now. And I'm like, I don't want to have to fight for it. I want to choose, to be softer, and changing the way that I look at people, and not be driven by judgment and and it's always coming from the television, and then the other thing I thought of when we met her is, if we were to turn off all that noise, the conversation that we had with her at that table breaking bread, those are the conversations that everyday people are having or craving or needing. And that's where the world's problems are going to be solved. It's not going to be in chambers or behind benches or on the newscasts, which is not even news anymore. It's 99% opinion. But
news.
the problems are going to be solved one conversation at a time with people who don't look like each other, because the people who are trying to get you to buy their products want you to think that we're more divided than we are. And I'm just, there are people out there that are doing really, really dumb stuff, and that's what makes the news. And when you see a lot of dumb stuff repeated over and over, and it's not balanced out with good, or the good never seems to outweigh it, then you're going to think that everybody's racist, everybody's crazy, everybody's a Karen, and everybody is like some people that have been in power who are no longer in power. And that's just not true. There's more of the angels and Glorias and Camille sitting at tables than there are all of the bad news that you would see in your news feed right at this moment. And I think one of the ways, the title of our broadcast tonight is Permission to Heal. And I think one of those ways that I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but one of those ways that we can start the healing process is to start paying attention to what we're listening to. Because no matter how popular or how entertaining something that has negative energy is, you are not going to be healed in that space. So that, all since we met Angel, and some of it had been coming to me before. At my house, we turned off the news. Now, we turned the news off the TV, but the news that we catch on Facebook or Yahoo, I mean, there's really no difference between turning off the TV, but yet running to the computer basically get the same thing. I guess the major difference is you don't have someone screaming it at you. You actually get to read it unless you click the play button. So now to backtrack, tonight's episode is Permission to Heal. And I have found in my practice that sometimes you have to take yourself or others by the hand and say, it's okay to mourn that loss. You have permission to grieve. You have permission to be sad. You have permission to be depressed. You have permission to be angry. You have permission to experience all of the emotion that God gave you. Because you are a created being, and you were created with those feelings. So, and on top of that, when you were created with those feelings, God declared that you were good. Okay. So you can experience that, but then you have to make the choice. What are you going to do with your experience? So Gloria, you and I have experienced the racism, the sexism, the familyisms, whatever those may be. But now, as mature souls, our next step is in how we're choosing to respond.
Right.
Because the truth is, the areas that need healing in all of our lives are the areas where we're still responding the same way we did the first time that thing happened.
Mm-mm.
That's a pretty good indicator. If you're still responding in a negative, high energy, volatile, dramatic way to, to now to something that happened 20 years ago,
Right.
that's an owie.
Yeah.
And we talked last week. Time doesn't heal all
Mm-hmm.
wounds. Time
Right.
heals clean wounds.
Mm-hmm.
So if something or somebody or some event is still hitting the sore spot and it still hurts, like you just got cut, then it's time to roll up that sleeve and get that wound open so it can get cleaned out. And
But
sometimes we
Camille,
need to know we have permission.
I just love that, and I think last week when you or Angel, whoever said it, I think we have to sit on that for a second, because time doesn't heal all wounds. Time only heals clean wounds. Now, when you think about a sore, okay, that sore can be there and it can be clean with the peroxide and the whatever, whatever, whatever. But if that sore is never attended to, or that wound is never attended to, and it gets dirt in it, and it gets infected, and it gets all of that, it's still not going to heal. And that's the same thing with the wounds of our soul. It just keeps hitting me that, and you're saying it, but time does, we have to watch how we tell people things. You know, time doesn't heal all wounds. Time heals clean or cleansed wounds. And we have to make sure those wounds are cleansed, and that we're not piling stuff back on them or going back to pick at the wound every other week or whatever, so that it never heals. And that's profound, because sometimes when it hurts so bad, we go back and we pick at it and we think about it and we wonder and we this and we
And we
that.
blame. Hmm.
And yeah,
And
and
we accuse. Hmm.
we just stay on that we stay on that wound and wonder why the wound is not healing. The wound is not healing because we're putting dirt and infectious stuff. We're not putting cleansing stuff on it. That's profound. I just love that. I love that, Camille. That's real stuff.
And I mean, that's been life experience. And, we hear people say, oh, give it some time. And I'm like, you know, and
Yeah.
and then just choosing to be careful how we communicate. You can't give it time. Time is not an antidote. It's not a antibacterial. Time only time only takes care of clean wounds, and time only addresses the things we give our time to.
Mm.
So we can't, you can't ignore something and it go away. Well, in time, they'll get better. In time, it'll go away.
Mm-hmm.
No, the truth is, in time, it's not going to change unless there's some type of event that causes it to change. And time will not help you change it, especially if we're talking about people, because we can't change people.
Yeah.
The only thing we can do is change our response. And I think that a good bit of the areas that we need to heal in have to do with the way that we respond. But we can't change the way we respond until we know why we're responding that way in the first place. So I'll give you an example in my life. So the Friday before we interviewed Angel, I came home. I had been out of town with my sweetheart. And when we came home, our neighbor, there was a for sale sign in our neighbor's driveway across the street. And I was horrified. I mean, physically, there something physical and a great wave of sadness came over me. Now, I don't know my neighbors that well. I've been in my current home just over a year, and I was so shocked at my response to them leaving that I had to sit in it to figure out what exactly was going on. So here's the thing. The short version is I'm a military baby. We moved quite frequently. And over the course of time, I gave up on friendships because we would move somewhere, I would make friends, they would leave. We'd move somewhere, I'd make friends, we would leave. You move somewhere, you meet friends, you all leave at the same time. It was only one of those three things that was going to happen. So by the time I was in late elementary school, I was done with making friends. And most people thought, matter of fact, most of my high school classmates that I'm still in touch with, at some point during a conversation, they're going to tell you that I was mean. And it wasn't that I was mean. It was like, don't get too close. I don't know how long you're going to be here. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I've even been in relationships where I've said, don't get too close. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And that was the truth.
Yeah.
So to me, the evidence of not getting too close to this sweet little old couple across the street from me. Oh, and I have a new neighbor next door that I flat out just would not step down the steps if I saw them outside. But my justification was, you see that for sale sign out there? That's the reason why I didn't get too close. But I had to stop. And, the exercise that I gave Angel and the audience last week was when you feel that feeling, you've got to stop and say, hey, what does this feel like? And when was the last time I felt this way? And if you trace it back long enough, you will find the root of your appearing mean to people who've done nothing to you. And all it is when I was a little girl, it seemed like every time I made a friend, the friend got snatched away. So guess what? The solution to that was don't make friends. Yeah. And I carried that into my adulthood by even the relationship that I have now. After I was divorced, I did not want to go through what I went through. I was married to someone who remarried 6 weeks after our divorce was final. That's all y'all need to know about that marriage. Okay. I don't need to tell nothing else. So in order to avoid the embarrassment and the hurt that comes with knowing something like that happened, I just wasn't gonna fool with a relationship.
I'm gonna tell you, I tried that, but because of who I am, it doesn't work. And for me, it happened in a kind of a different scenario because in the last 25 years in being married, we've moved a lot. And I'm the kind of person that gets involved in the community, volunteer, and then you got to up and move. And it was so funny because I told a girl the other day that's here and she's leaving. And, we've been out here a couple of years, I guess so. And I said, and I just looked at her and she's my masseuse too. And I said, I have separation issues. I have a real problem with that. We're going to have to discuss it. And I mean, and it was, I mean, we made it as a joke, but I know that like just as yourself, for different reasons, I did have some of those separation issues. But I couldn't, when I first understood what it was, which was many years ago now, I was like, wow. And then I did have to go back and look. And I think it was me and my mom and, some other things. I remember myself standing at the front screen door, if y'all know what a screen door is. And my mom was leaving to go to work, leaving me with my big sisters. And I was just standing there crying and she was leaving to go to work. I can see that like it was just yesterday. And I didn't want her to go. I wanted her to stay there. And so anyway, long story short, I totally understand the separation part and how you can put walls up because you don't want to feel that feeling again. But what my gift to you is God replaces those people with some great, incredible people. That is the one thing that I've learned. He replaces those people because we've moved so much, but everywhere we've gone, we've met incredible people. And some of them now just follow us wherever we go. No, I had to cry when I left them, but some of them I've left several times because we lived in several places several times. But it's I do know that God, it's like when he says you lose your mother, father, etc. God replaces those people with really cool people. So you need to go get the, talking to your neighbor. Okay. That's gonna be we're gonna put her on the spot. That's gonna be one of the things we're gonna ask her in the next few weeks. Have you taken, because she cooks well and they will love it. Have you taken your neighbor any cookies and introduced yourself? Okay, we're putting her on the spot, okay?
Okay. And I will, as the Lord prompts, and I'm not looking for an out.
Okay.
But I am very sensitive to who is around me. So
yes, I know.
So
and you need to know who's around you.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know. You need to meet him for the good or for the bad, because you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to say, "Oh yeah, that's my neighbor." But I'm a jump. Linda Mackin says, "I know my mother passed, but I really didn't grieve over her. Why?" Now we can't tell her why, but what are your thoughts? She didn't grieve, she said, and she was a mother's caretaker.
Okay, so Linda, what I would ask, and the way we're set up tonight, Gloria, I can't see the comments, so I'm relying on you.
Okay.
So Linda, what I would ask, are you saying you haven't mourned the loss, or are you saying you haven't done it the way people expect you to?
Good question. Good question.
Because so I don't want to say it like that. So one of the things that there was 3 things that I wanted to put in the air tonight. We may not get to all of them, but one of them may speak to, let me know when and if Linda answers, Gloria.
Okay, I will.
But one of the, when it comes to giving permission to heal, I think it's important, if you are Christ conscious, you are, identify as a Christian, I think it's important to go back and take a really hard look at what Jesus had to say about family and what it meant to follow him. So let me just say the 3 things, and then we'll see how far we get. The first thing I want to say is, God, in whatever form you claim him to be, source, God, whatever, is calling each of us into an experience with him. He's calling us to walk alongside him. He's not going to do this he can do everything without us, but that was not why we were designed. So he is calling us as individuals into an experience with him, into the experience of love, into the experience of all the things that come with that love. Now, our challenge that Jesus spoke to when he was speaking to his disciples and a few others was, now, in order to follow him and to be in that relationship where you're moving when he's moving, and when he's when something happens, instead of seeing it as, God, come here and fix this, we're reaching up to him and saying, what are you trying to show me? How can I come with you? How can I continue to walk with you in whatever is in front of me? We're going to have to, the second part is, we're going to have to unpack some traditions, because your traditions, whether it's family or culture, can be a hindrance to your healing. And if you get a chance to read Angel's book, she highlights a story between her and her son, where this, in order for him to be an individual, his part in her story, he wants to tell, but she was kind of blocking him, which brings me to the third thing. In order for us, part of giving ourselves permission to heal is unlocking the gag orders that we have placed on ourselves, or that have been imposed on us because of family and tradition. So I will say this, and so that I make sure I say this, just because the trauma or the place that you need healing from happened in family, just because it is family does not mean that it has to stay that way. That's not quite the way I want to say it. But there's this saying, but that's your family, that's your brother, that's your sister. You can give yourself permission to not allow people, even family, to hinder your healing. Okay, part of cleansing some wounds means you might have to grab some family out of your wounds and take them out and clean them out. You may have to grab some traditions out of those wounds to get them cleaned out. But ultimately, you're cleaning the wounds so that you can hear the heart of God beating along with yours.
Okay. I
That's
have
the
some
goal.
response from her. She says, no, I haven't grieved at all. And then she says, I was there when she got sick in the hospital. I prayed that she was ready to go home, not natural home. And so I think that what she's saying is she hasn't grieved at all. And I guess my question to her is, what does she feel that grieving looks like? Or what is she waiting to do? And Angel has joined us. She's on here. She's just, hi. And Mary Reed, thank you for your comment. But the question that I would have is, what are you waiting to do? Now, I had some of that with my brother, but I think I grieved for my brother before he passed. And when he passed, I was okay. I even had a discussion with my mother because I wasn't broke down or whatever. But I was like, Mom, I'm good. He was, I was upset with him because he didn't come to Maryland and eat crabs with me like he was supposed to before he died. But I was at peace because he was not one that I would have said had accepted Christ, but before he passed, I know that he had. And so that gave me a peace. And even though he was my big brother and I was, he was the oldest, I was the youngest, and we were, goody friends, I was at peace when he passed. And if grieving is that crushed, wrenching, what is it called? Gnashing of teeth. I didn't do that with him because I don't feel like I know that's not it for him. And I didn't do that with my mom either, even though I cried more with my mom probably. But so I guess my question to her is, what are you waiting to do? Or what do you feel is unfinished?
Or it could be that Linda's soul has recognized the scripture, I believe it's in Corinthians or Colossians, where Paul says that we don't mourn like the rest of the world. Maybe her soul is resting in, you don't have to do any of that stuff because you did the work and you know what the word says. We don't have to do it like the world. Matter of fact, we shouldn't do it like the world.
She just wrote, that is what I am saying. I am at peace. Okay. Now we got it. We got it. I thought she was waiting to do something that hadn't been done. Right. And when she say, but you know what? Now that puts a whole nother question out there. How do we define grief or grieving?
Well, there's a clinical, sterile, when you are the emotions that come with loss, because we don't just grieve. I don't want to say just. We grieve more than the loss of a loved one or a friend. We grieve loss in relationships, loss in money, and the mourning would be the extended would be the ceremonial process of that loss.
Okay.
So, and then, grieving takes on, like I said, it's subjective. It's
Right.
cultural, it's traditional, it's, whatever they say is supposed to be in that moment. But Linda, because you're at peace, I hope you see the gift that you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you get to bring that gift of what we call good grief into
Yeah.
the space, into spaces where people need it.
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes we play the game, whoever's the loudest at the funeral might have loved grandma the most,
Woo!
which may mean that they're the most guilty about something. And, that is not the time
It
to spend a
hurts the
lot of
worst.
time.
I'm sorry.
That's
That's what
not the time to spend judging. And that's
I know.
another component of giving yourself permission to heal would be to stop comparing and to stop judging.
Yeah.
Because comparison is a gateway to hatred. And if I compare the way I grieved my brother to the way that I saw a friend of mine, and I use her as a model. Several months after my brother passed, a friend of mine lost her son in a horrific car accident, her only son. And at his funeral, at the very end, that she had deliberately asked the choir to sing a very upbeat worship song. And she stood before his urn and she just worshiped. And I'm like, now, Lord, I can't say that if something happens to my son, that I'm going to do this. But it is my constant reminder that I have no excuse not to worship, no excuse not to get before, because if she could do it with thousands of people in the room watching her over her son, then I should be able to do it by myself when the loss is not, when the loss is not as great. But that wasn't I could have got caught in this comparison and started feeling bad. Well, we weren't allowed because of family tradition. We had to, act like we were at the opera at my brother's funeral. But had I been allowed, to do what was internally going on, it wouldn't have looked like anything that my friend was doing as she worshiped. It would not have been worship. It would have been some type of idolatry tied toward my brother, But I want to go back to Linda just being, just having that gift of knowing mom is okay. You did everything you were supposed to do. You were at peace. It's almost a death till death do us part. You took care of your mom till death separated you. And now with peace, you've gone on and continued to live until you guys get to meet. Again, if that's part of your belief structure.
Well, I'm gonna share something that some people are gonna say is morbid, okay? And I'll preface it with don't don't look. I know, Camille. I haven't shared this
No,
with
I'm
you.
looking to see if there's a way I can say sensitive subject alert or something, but I don't have access to that thing because I'm on a link.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you text me what you want to say, I'll put it up there.
Okay.
But when I think it was maybe when my brother passed, and during that time I had several really good friends passed, and just there was a lot of dying. Even I think that's when it all started back in 2005 or whatever. And no, it was before that, because when I was working, it was before when I was working, I had to witness and help one of my employees to bury her child who had been uh, killed. Well, I had two. One who had been killed by a baby who picked up her gun, and another one was a grandmother helping her to bury a child, her grandchild, who had been beaten to death by the baby's mother. And that was a time when I was like, God, okay, you've given these children to me and their gifts. And I'm preferencing all this because when I say what I say, y'all won't think I'm totally crazy. But it was like, so they're not really mine. they're yours, and I'm just taking care of them. And so it was like, God, I don't want anything to come between us, but I love my children so much that I don't know what I would do if anything ever happened to them. And I was just on that for a week or so. And I just like, God, I don't want to be mad. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. But those are my boys. And what I was led to do, and it sounds morbid, but I sat. One day I had one funeral, and the next day I had the other funeral. And I cried and I cried and I cried at each funeral. And after that, it was like, okay, now God, if something happens to him, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I feel like I've gotten my human sadness out, that I would not run away from you if something happened to one of my children. And that has just always been with me. That, not saying I want to lose any of them, but it's just like I had to detach, because I love children. Oh my God. When I see someone do something to children, it's like the beast comes out in me. And I'm like, okay, you can't be a beast and love God too. You got to bring it. And so I was like, if anything, and having a young child with a disability, it's like, and then and to try to prevent that, I just tried to pump him up, with the most confidence I could. But we have to, in trying to heal ourselves, I think, and I don't know if this is good psychology or not, but sometimes we have to think, what's the worst that could happen? Or based on what happened to us, if it was something worse that could have happened, and be grateful that it was not worse, if that makes sense. Because sometimes we get the victim mentality. And I think we always have to remember it could be so much worse. But I don't know, is that a bad thing to try to prepare for the worst?
I not sure that it is the best use of the present.
Okay.
Does that make okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if we are, and you and say the word detachment in just a few minutes, okay, because that's important.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best use of the moment
Mm-hmm.
is to not. People work themselves up into panic attacks, anxieties, and all manners of emotional distress because they are what if, or they're trying to, they're not playing chess, they're playing checkers in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So they're jumping all over the place and not getting to, a landing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so to speak. So I think the best use of the time, especially as, I personally and others who are, on a journey to healing and helping others heal, is you want to stay present in the moment.
Okay.
And if I'm remaining present and intentional in this moment, then what if has no place,
Okay.
or thinking it could be worse.
Okay.
That is thinking it could be worse does not serve me in this moment.
But does it take away the sting? See, I guess, and what I'm saying, for me, it takes away the sting of what is at the moment, that it could be worse. It's not that I linger there, but it's like, okay, I got this cut on my leg. Well, okay, my leg's not cut off, so be grateful and let's move on. So
I
I'm not
I hear
staying in
you.
that.
Absolutely. But sometimes the reasons why people are in emotional and mental distress is because they won't feel the sting in the moment. It's like, I've got a sting and I've got it, whatever I do, I've got to stop the sting. So am I going to think, oh, it could have, it's a sting, but could it be a worse sting? So even saying for me, and in my coaching practice, saying that it could be worse is just it, the words don't, to me, the words don't serve.
Okay. I
It's
need to come
something
get
that
on
we
the couch.
always hear people say,
Yeah.
and that's part of the tradition that we let go. Some of the things that we have said because we've heard other people say it. The words are the words serving? Are the words nourishing? If you put the words on a plate, are they providing you with nutrients or are they
Hmm.
providing you with
Hmm.
poison? And I just don't think, like I said, I don't think it's the best use of time or the best
Okay.
use or it's the best service, for us to dwell on what it could be.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
people create whole movies on what might have happened.
Oh yeah, no, no, I understand that. I totally understand that. I get you. I received that. I get that. Um, yeah, too much in the past or future and miss the moment. This, and I hear you when you say trying to forget or trying to not feel the hurt in the moment, thinking that it could be worse. And I guess I was using that as a surviving technique
Right. And not healing. Because
and not
remember,
healing.
time is not going to fix that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Time is only going to fix it if it's been addressed.
Okay. 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 Angel said,
And
right.
time itself is
No, I was just saying, Angel said, right. We repress, numb, or hide, but feeling it and being authentic in what you feel, this doctor's
doctor.
really
That's me.
is really healing. It feels good to my soul to be honest. Mm-mm. Where? Oh, that's you.
In what we feel and worth. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying. Okay, I'm reading too many things. Okay. Wait, okay. It feels good to my soul to be honest in what we feel and worth through loving kisses. Okay. And then that's you that said you also won't know how it
No,
would
I
hit
didn't
you.
write that.
Who wrote that?
I don't. It's
I didn't
somebody
write
that's
that.
on. Somebody that's
Spat, are
actually
you?
watching.
Okay, it may be my son. I think he's trying to, okay. Let's see. You also won't know how it will hit you in that moment. So it's trying to prepare for the level of emotion you only think you will go through. That's a controlling technique and not a healing technique. Well,
That
screws
is
me.
Scott. Yeah.
Okay, Scott.
So I'll go back to what we talked about last week when I said to Angel, in the practice, I say, how are you feeling? Describe the feeling. And then you trace it back. Well, the other part of the exercise could be when something is happening right now. Sometimes the only question to ask is, what is happening right now?
Mm,
And how am I feeling about what is happening right now? And what is the truth about what is happening right now?
mm,
Because how you feel about what's happening right now and what's actually happening right now are not necessarily the same thing. And I remember
mm,
telling my middle school girls, your feelings are not the facts,
mm. Yeah.
you know.
Their
So,
feelings are based on a lot of things.
right. And we're given feelings to feel, but we have to know when, we're giving certain emotions to get us out of danger, but we also have to be taught and we have to learn what to do, what to do with all the other feelings, the ones that have
I,
nothing to do with our basic survival instincts.
I'm gonna just come lay on the couch and have you on one side and Angel on the other side and just let y'all take me. I just need y'all to come. And I'm laughing, but I'm so honest. Something just being totally transparent. I've been this past 30 days or more. I've been through a healing process, and my healing process is letting go and learning to do one thing at a time. Because of heart rate and panic attacks and all those things and being in the moment, doing one thing at a time is incredible. I did not, and I won't talk about some of the things I told one of my girlfriends, but I didn't realize how many things I was doing at one time. When I went into, I'll use the cooking. When I go into the kitchen to cook, I take my iPad, both of my telephones, and have the television on. Okay. And there may be a couple of Zoom meetings going on while I'm on one or two of the devices while I'm in the kitchen cooking. And it did not bother me one bit. I did not, it didn't make me sick. And when my son was down here from New York, he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, but on this last 30 days, and I'm nowhere close to it yet. I stayed off of Facebook for a month, other than, the business of the show and stuff. But I've been being intentional about doing one thing at a time. See, being a single parent in corporate America, you had that superwoman syndrome. And superwoman meant multitasking, doing everything, and then the guilt of being, or what guilt? I guess they say guilt or whatever it is of being a single parent, and et cetera, et cetera. You multitask, and that was my life, doing more than one thing at a time. And I used to pride myself on doing more than one thing at a time, and just to now come to see that it's taking me out of my head. It's really amazing to do one thing at a time. And I'm beginning to enjoy it a little bit. I still think about things like how many things I could be doing, but that it has to come to a healing for me because it's affecting my health. And someone said it once before, but I didn't give myself permission to heal. And I didn't acknowledge that I even needed healing because I was doing a lot and I was getting a lot done and I was efficient and I was good and I was all of that. Now that it's killing me, I have to stop and do one thing at a time. But, and it's okay. It's okay. Because the bottom line is I know God's got it all. And I knew that before then, but I acted like I didn't. I acted like he needed help from me, little old me, who don't know much, a whole bunch of nothing. But he didn't. He didn't. And I thank God for friends and family and professionals who can say, "Stop it."
And I imagine that Holy Spirit was there the whole time inviting you to stop, you know,
Yeah, he wasn't
because
telling me
I've
like
gone.
the people tell me.
Well, that's because he's a
God was being
gentleman.
nice.
He's a gentleman. He does not talk to us the way that the world would want us to think that he speaks. He's a gentleman. He only comes through doors that he's invited to step into. So, yeah. So I asked you to remind me of the word detachment, and I see that our
Detachment.
time is winding down. The time
Oh my
always flies
God,
when
where's the
we're
time go?
so. Yes, detachment. Not that detachment. I don't care. Nobody loves me. That unfriendly detachment.
You do that so well.
That's not what I'm talking about here. But I grew up around a lot of Valley girls, so it's really easy for me to pull that one out of my hat. But there is a kind of detachment that comes with giving yourself, part of giving yourself permission to heal is the detachment process. And that means, simply put, I'm not going to continue to allow how I feel about something or my emotions attach itself to the things that are going on in my life. I am not going to attach I am not going to attach myself to what the world or tradition or mom or dad say, but I'm going to stay right here in this moment. I'm not heading out to the next moment, and I'm not reaching back and pulling stuff from the past moments. Because if you keep reaching and pulling at the same time, you're going to end up cutting yourself. You're going to split. Just if you keep doing that, you're going to end up splitting. And that's not God's plan. We're facing forward. We've packed some lessons from the past into our toolbox, but we have left the trauma and the whys and the who. And, I want to say again, when we go back and look at things that happen, when we're tracing behaviors when we're tracing behaviors that are affecting our adulthood, we're not going back and tracing it to lay blame on a person. We're gathering information for our toolbox. Now that I know that the for sale sign in the sign doesn't mean that Bill and Nora are leaving me. It just means that they're moving. They've made a decision. So I'm detaching myself from the emotion. Part of my healing is detaching myself from the emotions of those things that happened in the past. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm kind of saving it for next Father's Day, but there's a whole thing that I went through to get healing and wholeness with me, the relationship that I have with my dad. And part of that was detaching his behaviors and his choices from me. And as I detached, instead of thinking that all of his behaviors were, he didn't love me, he didn't like me, he always chose other people over, family, whatnot, I inserted honor in those places where I had been judging him or fighting with him or trying to make him into something that he wasn't. So I detach my dad's behavior from who God says my dad is. And then I insert honor there to help me bridge and glue. And my dad is just the same as he was when I began this process, but I changed. He's not doing anything different. He's older. That's the only thing different. He still says crazy stuff. He still makes decisions that could make me feel, if I chose to, that he does not value my presence the way he values other people's presence. But I made a choice to honor. And sometimes honoring means honoring the choice.
Yeah.
And Angel just mentioned, we could have, and maybe that's what we need to go to next week is forgiveness, what it is and what it isn't. And what I'll tell you tonight, as we're getting ready to leave, forgiveness isn't an announcement that I've forgiven you for everything that you've done. Forgiveness is a conversation between you and God that leads to detachment. I am dropping the charges. I am letting you off the hook. And it doesn't matter what's been done, what you did. And I think I said this either last week or in a previous show. Part of that is so that I can be forgiven by God, Father, Source. But I'm letting them off the hook so I can get off the hook. Because if I don't forgive him, her, they, whatever, chances are they're not thinking about me, but I've got them on the hook for everything that they've done. And if we don't detach from that, drop the charge so that you can be healed, and drop the charge so that the charges that are hanging in the spirit over you can be dropped as well. But we can unpack that in another show.
Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do.
What they do.
I think
and if you take that,
I'm sorry.
If you take that, if you take that to heart, they don't know.
Yeah.
Because
they don't understand.
You can be so absorbed by your own idol, that you don't know the effect of your actions, your words, whatever, on other people.
Yeah.
If you are the God, little g, in your life, you don't know.
Yeah.
And the people who Jesus was looking at from the cross, who did not know, they didn't know because they kept asking. But they kept saying, he says he's this. Jesus asked his disciples, who do they say I am? And he come up with all these 11 different things that they say he is. And then he says, well, who do y'all think I am? And they're like, well, we don't know. And one time he even said, well, how much? I'm not going to be with y'all much longer. You've been walking with me all this time and you still don't know who I am. So they didn't know.
Yeah, and that, it kind of goes into the hurt people. But people who are, there are people who hurt people, but they're oblivious to what they're doing to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe
Mm-hmm.
that. And I know that, that's true. And I think that that's a lot of what that scripture means. I didn't understand it for a long time, but understanding how human we all are and how many issues we all have, we
Mm-hmm.
don't know sometimes. Sometimes we do,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times we don't know how
Mm-hmm.
our actions are hurting someone else. I truly
Mm-hmm.
believe that.
So, audience, you didn't need the permission from me or Gloria. You have permission to heal. You have permission to choose to live the abundant life that God intended. But in order to do that, you got to open up the wounds and you got to clean them out, because time only heals the cleansed wound. And sometimes, like I said earlier in the show, sometimes the dirt in the wound is caused by tradition, by religion, by family, by your own self-inflicted stuff, by being born on one side of a railroad track and not the other. But it all needs to be cleaned out. And once it's cleaned out, it needs to be left out. And God is faithful
Mm. Yes, he
to give
is.
you may think, well, if I have to surrender my family is toxic and I need to pull some of the wounds of family out. He is going to be faithful when the time is right to provide you with
Mm.
quote unquote new family. But one of the things that I love so much about Angel's story is that her healing, she was able to, Gloria and I talked about this before the show came on. It was almost like another version of Lazarus coming out of the tomb when Jesus called. So somebody said, Angel, come out. And Angel, when she came out of her tomb, it was like mom came out and the sons came out and the rest of the family is coming out behind her. I just have that visual, and that's how it can be for all of us, because it's going to take one person to get healed. You really want to break generational curses, you're going to
Mm.
have to look at the
Amen.
generational curse. You're going to have to dig it out at its root and let those wounds heal, because the greater generational curse is doing nothing and allowing the healing never to manifest. That's the
Whew.
biggest curse.
Yeah.
So I
I,
wanted to, you have permission. That's the uplifting thing. I didn't want this to be a Debbie Downer, but sometimes we have to have the hard conversations. But you have permission. You don't need permission from anybody else but yourself to make the choice to be healed. So go and be healed. Gloria, I turn it over to you.
okay. We're going to pray out. And next week, I guess Dr. Camille say we're talking about forgiveness. So we really going to, please share this video, share the one before, and bring everybody back next week, talk so we can talk about forgiveness. And it may be forgive yourself, forgive your family, forgive your friends. I don't know, but forgiveness is serious. But it's a jolt forward in your healing. So
Bring a journal with you. Have your journal with you next week.
Dr. Camille say have your journal with you next week, your pen and your journal. Now, that's an order. And we gave her order too. She got to go bake something and take to her neighbor. So we ain't going to forget that. Let's pray out. Father God, I just thank you. Lord, you're an awesome God. God, you're a faithful God. even in our unfaithfulness, God, you're faithful. God, we love you. We thank you. We thank you that you give us permission to heal. And we don't need it from anyone else, Father, but we have to give ourselves permission to heal. We have to acknowledge that we need healing, Father. We have to acknowledge that time is not going to heal those old dirty wounds. Time heals those cleansed wounds. And the way we cleanse them is between your word and all the positive things that we can put into our lives and take out those negative things that we put into our heads and our minds. As Pastor says, garbage in, garbage out. So, Father, help us to work on cleansing ourselves, to heal ourselves, Father, as we know only you can do. And Father, as we embark on this word of forgiveness next week, God, go before us, even this week. Give us the words, and may the words of our mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. God, bless those who are hearing us tonight, and may they be touched, may they be fed, may they have a peaceful night's sleep, and know it's all because of you. We love you, God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We love y'all. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.